I think Tiger answered it quite well after he won the Masters, and I wholeheartedly agree that the 4 trophies were sitting at his house. It was a joy. It was a privilege to compete against him. It was fun. It was fun to watch and see what could be done in this game. Certainly, he cost me events. He cost lots of other players events.
Professional golfers don't respect each other the way you think they do. Most of the time, it's just politeness for the cameras. But when David Duval names someone he respects, it actually means something. This is the guy who wore sunglasses to hide his intensity, who battled Tiger Woods at his absolute peak, who knew what it cost to stand on that final green with everything on the line. So when he looks back at his career and picks out 7 players, 7 names from the hardest era in golf history, you need to understand what that list really says. Because this isn't about friendship. This isn't about who he liked. This is about who earned it. Let's start with the most obvious name on the list, the one that had to be there, Tiger Woods. But here's what most people miss about Duval's respect for Tiger. It's not the respect of a fan watching from the couch. It's not even the respect of a competitor who got beaten. It's the respect of the only guy who actually stood toe-to-toe with him and didn't blink. Between 1997 and 2001, David Duval wasn't just another player trying to survive the Tiger era. He was the guy who ended Tiger's first run at #1. 41 weeks Tiger held that spot, and Duval took it from him in 1999. That same year, Duval shot a 59 in the final round to win at the Bob Hope Classic. He won the Players' Championship. He won 13 times in 4 years. This wasn't some flash in the pan getting lucky for a weekend. This was sustained dominance at a level that only one other person on the planet understood. Years later, when Duval was working as a broadcast analyst, some young players started talking about how they wish they could have played against Tiger in his prime. Players like Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas, talented guys who never had to deal with what that actually meant. Duval's response was immediate and brutal. The hell you do. 3 words that carried the weight of someone who lived through it. Because Duval knows something those younger players don't. He knows that Tiger wasn't just better, he was inevitable. When Tiger's name was on the leaderboard, you didn't have the hope he would falter. That's what separated him from everyone else in history. You could hope Jack Nicklaus would make a mistake. You could hope Tom Watson would have an off day. But when Tiger was leading, you knew you had to be perfect just to have a chance. And even perfect might not be enough. Make sure you subscribe and drop a comment telling me which player on this list surprises you the most, because we're just getting started. The 2000 US Open at Pebble Beach is where Duval truly understood what he was up against. Tiger won by 15 strokes. 15. Duval came into that tournament as a legitimate contender, one of the best players in the world, and he got to watch Tiger play a completely different game than everyone else. Duval described the US Open as a patience contest, a grueling test where par is a victory and disaster is always one shot away. Tiger took that framework and destroyed it. He didn't just overpower Pebble Beach, he outthought it. He avoided the heavy rough, controlled his trajectory through the marine layer, and putted with a precision that seemed almost mechanical. For Duval, who built his game on course management and strategy, watching Tiger that week was like watching someone rewrite the rules of physics. It was humbling, but it commanded absolute respect. The second name on Duval's list tells you everything about what he values: Vijay Singh. If respect for Tiger was about talent and dominance, respect for Vijay was about something more fundamental. Work. Pure, relentless, uncompromising work. In professional golf, there's a phrase that carries more weight than any other compliment: digging it out of the dirt. It means you didn't inherit your swing from some perfect genetic blueprint. You built it, shot by shot, bucket by bucket, through sheer repetition and grit. Vijay Singh is the patron saint of that philosophy, and Duval worships at that altar. Duval has told stories about Vijay's practice sessions that sound almost mythical. Hours on the range after competitive rounds, even in stifling tropical heat. Not just hitting balls, but living on the range, treating each swing as a meditative necessity. Duval, who had his own tireless work ethic before injuries took their toll, saw in Vijay a mirror image of dedication. But Vijay took it further. He was a golfaholic in the truest sense, someone who couldn't function without the act of striking a golf ball. The ultimate proof of what work can achieve came in 2004. That was the year Vijay finally toppled Tiger's monopoly. 9 wins. World #1. And Duval watched it happen while his own game was falling apart. But there was no jealousy in his respect, only recognition. Vijay didn't luck into that season. He didn't catch Tiger on an off year. He flat out outworked everyone, including Tiger. This wasn't some young phenom riding natural talent to the top. Vijay was in his 40s, an age when most players are thinking about the Champions Tour, and he was grinding harder than players half his age. That's what Duval respects most: the refusal to accept decline, the commitment to the process even when the body starts to resist. For Duval, who was battling vertigo and swing changes that would eventually end his prime, Vijay's ascent was a reminder of what's possible when your will completely dominates your body. Vijay didn't inherit the throne, he besieged it. But Duval's respect for Vijay goes deeper than work ethic. He became one of the loudest defenders of Vijay VJ's swing mechanics. Critics called VJ's swing unorthodox, with his laid-off position at the top and aggressive transition. Purists said it was flawed. Duval said it was genius. He talks about swing ownership, the idea that a player should own their mechanics rather than conform to some textbook ideal. VJ's so-called over-the-top move was actually a highly functional rerouting that produced a reliable power fade. By defending VJ's swing, Duval was defending his own. Both men reached world number one with swings that defied conventional teaching, but delivered the club face to the ball with devastating consistency. The third player on Duval's list is Ernie Els, and this is where the respect gets more complex. Els earned the nickname the Big Easy because of his smooth, rhythmic swing and his seemingly relaxed demeanor. To the casual observer, Els looked like a guy who played golf without urgency, like the game came effortlessly to him. But Duval saw through that illusion. He recognized that beneath the fluid swing was a competitive temperament made of steel. In the late 90s and early 2000s, media narratives painted Els, Duval, and Phil Mickelson as content country club products who lacked Tiger's killer instinct. Duval has rejected that characterization his entire career. He sees Els's demeanor not as a lack of fire, but as mastery of emotional regulation. To win 4 major championships in the Tiger era required a fortitude that screamed in silence. The 2002 Open Championship at Muirfield is where the depth of Duval's respect for Els truly crystallized. Duval arrived as the defending champion, having finally broken his major curse at Royal Lytham the year before. But his body was betraying him. His form was deteriorating. Still, he summoned a heroic defense, shooting a final round 67 to force a 4-man playoff. Els won that playoff after a chaotic Sunday where fortunes shifted with the coastal winds. At one point, Els hit a double bogey that could have derailed everything, but he steadied himself and won the claret jug. Duval's commentary on that event carries no bitterness, only admiration. He respects that Els, in the face of disaster, found a way to triumph. To Duval, Els represents the ideal of a true champion, someone who accepts the cruelty of golf with grace and wins through resilience rather than force. What Duval really respects about Els is something most people never saw. The media created this narrative that Els was too nice, too friendly, too comfortable to truly be great. They said he lacked the edge that Tiger had, the coldness that made champions. But Duval knows better. He saw Els up close in the most pressure-packed moments of their careers. He watched Els navigate the psychological warfare of major championship Sundays while maintaining his dignity and composure. That's not weakness. That's a different kind of strength entirely. Els won his majors by staying true to who he was, by refusing to become someone else just because the world said champions had to be ruthless. He proved you could have class and still have fire. You could be gracious in defeat and still burn to win. Duval respects that Els never tried to be Tiger Woods. He stayed Ernie Els, and he still won 4 majors in the hardest era the game has ever seen. That takes a confidence that runs deeper than any pre-round scowl or intimidating stare ever could. Now we get to Phil Mickelson, and this is where Duval's respect evolved over time. Early in their careers, they were grouped together as the best players never to win a major. That label carried a stigma, an implication of underachievement. Critics, and maybe even Duval himself at first, viewed Mickelson's aggressive, high-risk style as reckless, a lack of discipline compared to the calculated precision of Tiger or Duval. But as the years passed, Duval became one of Mickelson's most articulate defenders. Duval's respect for Phil is anchored in imagination. While Duval approached golf as a puzzle to be solved with logic and geometry, Mickelson approached it as a canvas for creative expression. Duval marvels at Mickelson's ability to see shots that no other player would even consider attempting. The flop shots from tight lies under major championship pressure, the risk-taking that looked reckless but was actually a calculated bet on his own immense talent. A bet that paid off with 6 major championships. The 2001 Masters is a moment that bonded them. It's remembered as the completion of the Tiger Slam, but for Duval it was a 3-way war. Duval, Mickelson, and Tiger were all in contention on the back 9 of Augusta National. Both Duval and Phil ultimately fell to Tiger, but the shared experience of standing in that arena, feeling the weight of history on their shoulders, created mutual respect. Duval knows what it felt like to stand on the 16th tee at Augusta with everything on the line. He respects that Mickelson kept stepping into that ring until he finally broke through in 2004. As an analyst, Duval highlights Mickelson's longevity as his most impressive trait, winning at age 47 in Mexico, then making history with a PGA Championship victory at age 50. Duval calls Mickelson's ability to reinvent his body and swing to compete against players half his age massive. He also defends Mickelson against the caricature often painted by the media. Duval has said that fans don't know Phil the way his peers do, implying the public persona hides a player who is deeply serious about his craft and supportive of his fellow competitors. The fifth name is Jim Furyk, and here the respect is almost mathematical. Duval and Furyk are connected by the number 59. In 1999, Duval shot his 59 in the final round to win at the Bob Hope Classic. He considers it the best final round ever played. Furyk later joined that exclusive club and then surpassed it with a 58. But Duval's respect for Furyk goes beyond rare scores. It's about authenticity of method. In an era where swing coaches tried to homogenize every player into aesthetic perfection, Furyk maintained his signature loop. Commentators described it as an octopus falling out of a tree. Duval saw beauty in its functionality. Duval uses Furyk as proof that impact is all that matters. Furyk's swing looked unconventional, but his standard deviation of strokes gained was among the lowest on tour. Statistically, he was the most reliable player in the world. For Duval, who values consistency and control above all else, Furyk represents the gold standard of reliability. Their bond extends to team golf. They've been partners in Ryder Cups, President's Cups, and even the Zurich Classic. Duval describes Furyk as methodical, partner who never puts you in a bad spot. In the high-stress environment of alternate shot, where one bad shot from your partner can doom the team, there's no higher compliment. Davis Love III is the sixth name, and this relationship runs deeper than competition. Their bond was forged at the 1999 Ryder Cup at Brookline during the historic American comeback. Both men were sons of PGA professionals. Both carried the weight of immense expectations from a young age. Love was one of the few players who truly understood Duval's psychological approach to the game. Love famously said that Duval felt he had to be separated or distant to beat the field. This insight is crucial because Love didn't judge Duval's aloofness as arrogance. He validated it as necessary armor for a champion. The bond is deepened by shared tragedy. Love lost his father in a plane crash. Duval lost his brother to aplastic anemia. This mutual understanding of profound loss created a silent empathy between them. Duval views Love as a big brother figure on tour, someone whose emotional intelligence matched his ball-striking prowess. What makes this relationship special is that Love never needed Duval to be anyone other than who he was. In an era where the media constantly criticized Duval for being too cold, too distant, too robotic behind those Oakley sunglasses, Love understood that the armor was necessary. He saw that Duval's aloofness wasn't arrogance or disrespect. It was survival. It was the only way Duval knew how to compete at that level without being consumed by the pressure. Love gave him permission to be himself, and that kind of validation from a peer means everything. Duval also respects Love's longevity and willingness to serve the game. They've captained and vice-captained teams together, partnered in events well past their primes. Love's ability to transition from major champion to statesman of the game is a trajectory Duval admires and has tried to emulate in his own broadcasting career. The final name is Nick Price, and in many ways he might be the most important. If Tiger was the rival and VJ was the worker, Price was the model. Duval has explicitly cited Price as the benchmark for ball-striking purity. Despite different setups, they both achieved a neutral impact position that represents the holy grail of golf mechanics. Duval respects Price's domination of the 1994 season, winning the Open and the PGA Championship in a span of weeks with laser-like iron play that Duval sought to replicate during his own run in 1999. But more importantly, Duval respects Price's humanity. He once said, "It's hard to be Nick Price, super nice and friends with everybody, and compete against them." This quote reveals Duval's internal philosophical struggle. He believed he needed to be cold, like Hogan or Tiger, to dominate. He marveled at Price because Price proved you could be a gentleman and still be an assassin between the ropes. Price represents the ideal that Duval admired but felt he couldn't afford to be during his prime, a balance between competitive greatness and personal warmth that Duval has increasingly embraced in his post-playing career. So what does this list actually tell us? It's not random. It's a coherent reflection of everything David Duval holds sacred. Substance over style, mental fortitude, work ethic, authenticity. These 7 players passed a test that most never even took. They endured the Tiger era without breaking. They owned their swings and rejected conformity. They remained true to their nature, whether that was Price's kindness or Tiger's ruthlessness. In the end, David Duval's respect is a mirror. It reveals a man who saw golf not as a game of leisure, but as a severe test of character. And these 7 men stood next to him in that test and understood exactly what it cost to be there. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments which of these 7 players you respect the most and why. Because the players David Duval respects are the ones who defined what greatness actually means.